Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating, honestly kind of counterintuitive paradox in the world of physical business security. We're looking at the insights of Jesse Bajwa. He's a professional security shutter installer. But here's the kicker. He frequently tells his clients that they actually shouldn't buy his product. Seriously? A salesperson literally telling you to keep your money in your pocket. Let's unpack exactly why shutters are often completely unnecessary.
He actually says, I sell shutters, and I'll tell you the same, there are storefronts where a shutter is the wrong spend. Now, think about how disarming, how genuinely trustworthy it is when a vendor just walks away from a guaranteed sale. Jesse does this because he prioritizes a smarter allocation of a business owner's resources over a quick commission for himself. He gets that every storefront is totally unique, and slapping a one-size-fits-all heavy metal shutter on every single building is often just the wrong move.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To really grasp this concept, we're going to evaluate storefront security logically across 5 main areas: the environment, the asset, the infrastructure, how to make a smarter spend, and finally, exactly what you should do right now.
Starting with Section 1, the environment. The big question here is, are you already protected?
Because, in a lot of cases, your building's layout or the neighborhood block itself is already doing the heavy lifting for you. Consider these already hardened spaces, like if your storefront is set back behind locked outer building gates, or maybe you're inside a closed mall that literally shuts down at 10 p.m. Or say you're up in a second-floor unit with badge-only entry and an overnight security presence. If that's you, a shutter on your specific front door isn't really doing much. That realistic overnight threat, it's stopped 2 entire layers before it even gets to you. In those setups, dropping thousands on an expensive shutter is just creating a completely redundant 3rd layer. Honestly, you'd be way better off just relying on basic internal cameras and door alarms.
And this brilliantly illustrates another major environmental factor, the massive gap between the imagined threat and the actual threat. It is so easy to watch an evening news broadcast, get completely anxious, and just assume your quiet storefront is under siege. But let's look at reality. What does your block history actually show? What does the local police data say? Is there actually just really low overnight traffic? If you're out on a quiet suburban arterial with an active neighborhood watch, an expensive shutter is usually a reaction to television panic, not your actual reality.
So for those lower threat environments, there are much cheaper fixes. Got no transit stops within a half a mile? Just put up some bright LED storefront lighting. No historical break-in pattern? Throw up some motion-triggered back floodlights. Got an active neighborhood watch? Grab some highly visible alarm window stickers. Boom! These lower touch upgrades are a perfect match for that actual lower threat level, and they keep you from wildly overspending your security budget.
Moving to Section 2, the asset. This is where we have to ask, is it actually worth stealing?
This shifts our focus to what exactly is sitting right behind your glass. We have to be a bit blunt here. Is the inventory you're protecting actually worth stealing in a quick smash and grab? Say you run a professional service or an accounting firm. Your team probably just takes their laptops home at night, right? Or maybe you have a back office space that literally doesn't even have windows. And think about large retail. If you're selling custom lumber or massive, heavy furniture, thieves aren't doing a smash and grab on a 2-ton mahogany desk. It's just not happening. These businesses simply don't draw the kind of attack that justifies a heavy-duty shutter install. In these cases, your right fix is a reinforced commercial door with a solid deadbolt, or just better lighting and visible cameras.
Which brings us to Section 3, the infrastructure. Let's talk about your actual weakest links. This is notoriously the hardest conversation for an honest installer to have. Why? Because it means looking an owner in the eye and telling them their budget needs to be spent somewhere else before they even think about buying the installer's product. Listen, buying a massive, impenetrable front shutter is absolutely useless if a determined intruder can just walk around to the back and kick in a cheap residential lock on your commercial back door. Look at these unseen weaknesses: hollow core front doors, easily breakable glass block walls, broken cameras from 6 years ago, or alarms that haven't even been monitored in over 2 years. You've got to fix these foundational flaws first. A commercial-grade front door and a basic tune-up of your alarm system often cost way less than a single shutter, and they do infinitely more to actually secure your building.
So the crucial point is this: honesty literally pays off. By pointing out these cheaper, far more urgent fixes, an installer builds immense trust. It's wild, but roughly 25% of these owners end up coming back a year later after they've fixed those back doors and upgraded their lights, and they add a shutter on top of their new upgrades. That upfront honesty earns the install eventually.
All right, Section 4, smarter spend. What are the alternatives and the inevitable exceptions?
Because of course there's going to be natural pushback here. If a generic shutter isn't the right move, what are the specific alternatives? Well, one huge game changer is Riot Glass. This is an impact-resistant security glass that installs right on the inside of your existing storefront windows. It doesn't alter the building's exterior at all, so it's the absolute perfect pivot for historic facades, high-end luxury brands, or least restricted spaces where your landlord says a traditional bulky exterior shutter is simply not allowed.
But what if you run into this exact question? Hey, my insurance requires a shutter. Does all this logic still apply? The short answer? No. If your insurance carrier puts a shutter requirement in writing, the math completely flips, because the cost of refusing is losing your coverage entirely. In that specific scenario, the shutter is absolutely the right install, regardless of whether your actual neighborhood threat level warrants it. You got to do what the policy says.
But we also have to acknowledge that a no-install recommendation today isn't a no-install forever. The threat profile of a neighborhood changes over time. You should definitely check back in if a new transit line extends to your block or, say, a dispensary opens up next door. The overnight foot traffic and the associated risks can drastically shift in just a few years. So an honest security assessment is an ongoing process, not a one-and-done deal.
Finally, Section 5. What to do now? Here is your action plan.
We've covered a ton of ground today, so let's look at how this builds into a really pragmatic game plan before you spend a single dime on security. Step 1. Assess your actual threat. Step away from the evening news and pull the real police data for your specific block. Step 2. Walk your own building. Look for those easy fixes you've been ignoring, like burned-out parking lights or cheap back door locks. Step 3. Find a vendor who will honestly tell you no. You want to actively avoid those installers pushing high-pressure one-day hard sell discounts. Find a partner who actually evaluates your specific reality.
I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on. Look at your business. Look at where your money is going. Is your storefront actually secure, addressing its real, tangible weakest links? Or are you just heavily marketed to, buying products driven by perceived fear rather than actual risk? Think about that next time you look at your building, and make sure your security budget is actually protecting your peace of mind.